I'm gonna open up the January 6th, 4 o'clock meeting and call it to order. Unfortunately, Wheeler, and his family all have to flee, so,
That's why he's not here.
yes, I'm very happy he's not here. So, Andy has been gracious enough to, fill in for him. So,
Okay. Yeah. Approval of the meeting minutes. Do we have a copy of the meeting minutes from last week? Or?
you sent the email, I do have a copy of them, if you need it.
Yeah, I didn't have those to print, but I
Okay,
did.
no, that's fine. You sent the copy to everybody. Has everybody looked over the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Any, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
Construction update. Things are actually going very well. I'm very pleased. My last two visits at the site, last one being Saturday. They got a good break on the weather, and they really got some manpower over there on the roof. What people have to understand with this roof is it's quite the process. Is that they built a standard roof structure, sheathed it, and then there's still a lot to do before you can lay your shingles. They have to install a whole nail base, a whole nother layer of shingles, and then start shingling. So they came through with what they said. They'd like to wait until it was all ready and send a big crew, and they did that. We're hoping that the whole roof will be on by next week. They ran out of some nail base, that vented product that goes on. So they're working on some odds and ends on the cheek walls and whatnot until that comes in. But as soon as that comes in, they probably only have 2 at the most 3 days before the whole shingled roof was beyond. Building was quite dry. That building dries right out because it adds time to this process, but they're already building in all their insulation, all their vapor barriers, everything. So the good news is once you get that on, it's extremely easy to heat and dry out because you have your envelope. And windows are sitting over in Dartmouth. As soon as the roof is tight, they'll ship the windows over. Those will install quickly, and then they'll have a tight building over there. They have 2 heaters running. I think they're about 1 million BTUs each. Yeah. So it's going to dry right out, nearly, you think, and so.
Yeah. Before Andy continues, I'd like to interrupt just a moment here. For all of you, good evening, Happy New Year's. I don't know if this is select board or select people, I don't know.
No, this is the police station building subcommittee. And Mike Fortunato is no longer the project manager or the guy on site. This is Neil, and he's taken over for
Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Neil Provost. I work for Pomeroy Associates. I am your on-site representative for the town and Pomeroy Associates. They're on a daily basis overseeing the construction of the building and the construction schedule and so forth. And I'd just like to add some comments that Andy already brought up. We are into winter conditions now, officially. We have the building being heated. It is being maintained at roughly about 50 degrees on a daily basis. With the building being designed the way it is with your insulation on the roof and the sidewalls, you're not putting insulation into the rafters and the walls. It's very, very easy to heat. Right now we have a very comfortable situation for all the subcontractors and everybody to be working in there. Not only that, but it is part of the specifications that we maintain it at a certain temperature so everything gets properly installed, no cold items or anything like that. We do have probably 5 major components happening inside the building now. Electrical contractor, heating and air conditioning, fire protection. The masonry work is still going on in the cell area, and the electrical work is being roughed on right now. Everybody's working with each other. We're not seeing anything being thrown out the windows from anybody. Over the years, a lot of these subcontractors have worked with each other. I know probably half a dozen of them by first name. That's how often they show up with these public works projects. They all know each other. They're getting along with each other very well. Right now at this stage, we probably have a solid 8 weeks of rough mechanicals going on. So you're looking at maybe end of February, 1st of March, somewheres around there. You'll start looking at tidying things up and getting ready to board. Windows, I believe, are going to be going in around the 13th, I think, January 13th or so. And we do have an Anderson representative who will be on site to oversee the installation of the window to make sure that you have the proper installation, but also if it's properly installed, you get the warranty and the guarantee from the Anderson people. Very important on window products like this. We do have the Eversource coming out this week. We should see that utility pole being installed this week.
Oh, nice.
We've done the culvert work. They're finishing up on that. And right now the site work is not problematic, but obviously we've got a solid 8 weeks of winter conditions too. Rain, freeze, rain, freezes. You know, what do you do? It's one of those catch-all things. If we get a good week's worth of weather, they'll be out there. They're on call at any time with HV Collins, the general contractor. And I'd like to add that the roofing right now is probably about 95%. They'll be out during good weather, buttoning up smaller areas that they need to put the insulation on, shingle. They'll be starting some flashing in the valleys and so forth. That will be ongoing, and they should be just about through. And we're just, even with the cold weather, we've got plenty to do on the inside, and everything is looking fairly good right now. And that's our update.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
One question, what's your projection to be weather tight?
Well, right now we kind of, in a sense, we are weather tight. We have the insulation on the outside of the building. All the windows have poly over them, and we have temporary plywood doors throughout the building. So that's helping to keep all that heat inside. So there's no excuse not to be on the inside of the building right now.
Okay, and dehumidification, what are you going to do to dehumidify the
We'll play that as we go along. Let's see what we want to get. We have 2 very large fans in there right now, moving the air around. It's not necessarily heat that's going to dry out the building. It's going to be the movement of air. So we've got 2 big fans that are constantly on that working conjunction with the thermostats. So that air is always going to be moving around. And we're not installing anything. There's certain parts of the building that we're not going to install on the second floor yet. We're still a little dampish up there, but we got plenty to do on the entire first floor, the sally port, the celery, and we're working our way up.
And you don't see any moisture issues associated with
No, I've seen it before.
no staining,
No, I don't think we're going to have any issues. You have to look at it a couple ways. What if we had started the building in December or January? You'd still have the same type of weather conditions with or without the roof. So that's just, it's kind of like the process when we go through a building. But I don't foresee any issues with that at all. There'll be plenty of time, and we'll probably take some moisture checks anyways before the board even goes up. You know, we're not going to take any risk with that. Being a wood interior building,
right?
can contract, expand. You're going to get that throughout the building. Once we reach a certain level of temperature and dehumidification, we shouldn't have any concerns with that.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Project schedule update. So we already talked about the 1 month look ahead and being weather tight. But project, I spoke with Ed and Oliver, and we're on schedule to be finished in June, which is the projected date right now. Budget update. The simple answer is on budget. You do have a budget report, the other 8.5, 11 in your packet. So if we could just look at the yellow numbers right now. The general construction number is being adjusted by change order 4, which are previously approved items. I believe there's 5 in that one altogether. Those were previously approved, and that's at $71,473.04. And that includes change orders 1 through 4. So right now the project's on budget. I don't know if I don't think you want me to go through every line item here.
No,
If anyone has any
no.
questions looking at the budget, the only thing that's changed since last time is we added change order 4 of those previously approved change orders. So unless there's any questions, we could.
How did you make out with the whole tower issue and all that?
We'll get to that.
Oh,
Yeah, that's,
That might take some time.
Well, I know that was a change order that was provisionally approved and all that.
material testing update, you wanna speak to that, Neil? Like-
Yeah, we're currently going right now with the rest of the masonry work going on in the cell area. We're checking, doing testing and sampling of the mortar and the grout and placement of the rebar. That's always ongoing until those walls get built up. Any concrete work we're up to date on. We'll start doing some more, weather permitting, because we have sidewalks to do. We'll have the tentatively the pad for the tower to do, possibly anything to do with the carport foundations. But again, that's right now. That's winter conditions. We don't. We're not going to risk doing anything unless it's properly handled. We'll do some more material testing when the weather breaks for the site contractor concerning any grading for roadways and berms, anything like that. But again, we're kind of on hold due to the winter conditions. But we are on top of testing at all times.
Questions, concerns? Okay, moving on.
Change request, 11117, that you have in your packet is for, it's a PCO and change order log. We only need to focus on the 2 yellow items. All the other ones are essentially closed or approved or rejected. So PCO number 12 is the electric charging station. We spec'd out a complete electric charging station to be installed as a change. The number came back for the whole package at $20,214.22. We thought that was just too high, so we circled back and said, how about giving us a number just to run the conduit under the parking lot and stub it out, and then the town could install one at a later date without going through the contractor and the file sub-bidder. And the amount to do that is $7,216.37. So that's in front of the board right now as to whether we'd like to proceed with getting the conduit under the parking lot and out to the location that would make sense for a charging station to have, that would service 2 parking spots in the future. That's one PCO that's out there. And then the second one in yellow is proposed change order number 16. It's for some upgrades to the security system. I think that the chief could probably speak to those best if you'd like to, Chief. What we did is we did a walkthrough and we made some proposed changes, we had that priced out by the contractor. Came in at $27,557.36. We reviewed that with our engineers and the OPM. We feel that that number was too high, so it's under review. We've thrown it back to them as too high. So at this time, but it is going to get critical as far as everybody's roughing, and if the longer it goes, the more it could potentially cost. So I'd like to have some discussion about that tonight and see how we proceed with that. Well, right now we're waiting to hear back from the electrical contractor after saying, no, we think it's too high, and here's why. We gave them some backup information. We would have heard back by now, but the holidays killed it. We're thinking this week sometime we'll hear back from them.
So each of the doors in the police station have a locking mechanism. Many of them have an electronic locking mechanism, and that was incorporated into the plans. So when I reviewed the plans, I wanted to have the holding facility consistent with standards that are being used in other holding facilities. So in other words, rather than just hold an electronic pass to get out of the holding facility, you would need a pin, a combo pad to put a pin in. Why would you do this? Well, if the officer is ever overpowered, etc., the arrestee would take the fob and get out, versus a pin, they can't get out. So you would need these, I think it's 1, 2, 3, between the holding facility and the sally port, there's probably about 7 of those positions. Additionally, in the evidence room, there are some, the evidence closet, access into the evidence room, we would use those as well. I don't understand what the increase in cost is, because as I pointed out earlier, all of these things are already designed. It's right there, whether you have an electronic swipe or a pad, all the infrastructure's already been designed, and I think that's what we're pushing back on. But I think most of these are critical to officer safety and security of the holding facility, as well as evidence. And accreditation standards do require secondary security on many of these things that we hold. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so, the electric charging station, it is what it is at the 7,216.37. I don't know if you could take a vote on that to see if you wanna put the conduit in for a future station. We've already gone back at them twice about the costs. And,
Is there any statutory incentives for us, whether,
no,
because we're a municipality?
nope, no, you know, it would
No
help.
requirements, though, to have it, it's just,
There are no requirements and there's no incentives to do it at this time.
We just wanted them to investigate it. It's up to us whether we think it's worthy, or not at this point.
And if you ever did put it in the future, either right away or 3 years from now, you won't stop by digging up the paving if we get some conduits in for it. And then the security changes, Taylor had run an idea by me where, as if a vote was taken on it, as, you know, not to exceed the amount on the security changes and whatever it gets pared down to, or if not, we'd have to wait on this one.
Does a number exist that you guys already know that you think it should be?
No,
Okay.
that doesn't exist. We're waiting, so we sent back our comments to the contractor and the electrical contractor. I spoke to the contractor today. They are working on it, they haven't got it back. We should get that back this week. And then we'll probably maybe have an on-site or some kind of face-to-face with the contractor and the electrical contractor on that.
Paul?
What is that 27,000 or whatever it comes back at? For what purpose? In other words, some far less sophisticated systems that, similar to the system we have here, where you have to use a fob. The software also allows for a fob and entry.
Yeah, we agree, that's why
Let's
we're
just
pushing
change
back.
So it's kind of, the software must be there.
The software already exists.
Yeah.
I think they're doing the duals though, which is the swipe and the
Right.
keypad.
Exactly.
But even that, I mean, how much more is it for a pad? I mean, $500 a piece
Yeah, so-
times, you know,
so we-
10 doors or something, you know? I mean,
Right.
It's not, yeah.
you know what I'm
So
saying?
we believe it's out of line and we push back and we're waiting.
So, would the extra security be to the accreditation standards where the fob would not? Is that?
Yeah, I think in the evidence room, it's critical, so to answer your question, yes. And then, you know, in the holding facility, whether you have a swipe or a pin, the infrastructure's already there, designed, et cetera. All they have to do is not put the swipe and put the pad in instead.
So to follow up on what Charlie just said, are you saying that if we don't do this, we're gonna lose accreditation?
No, I didn't say
Okay.
that.
No,
I
well,
just
that's what
said that the standards, the accreditation standards require what they call additional security for drugs and firearms.
Okay.
And this locker, if it has the same swipe as everything else, it's not gonna meet the additional security. That's all.
but that
again,
is anything
that's-
from manual deadlock or any
Well,
other,
you could do that too, yeah.
I mean,
But you already have the design for the swipe there already,
Right.
so why not just put the pin there instead? I just don't understand what the difference in cost if you already have a swipe there versus a pin. A few $100 maybe, I mean,
It doesn't even make sense, Chief, because even that lock, you can put a pin into that lock and the person would just have a pin to open the door. This 27, this doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, I agree with the need for the
Oh,
security.
I think you need it too, I just don't.
I have
know.
no issue with that, I just
So-
don't think that's.
So we pushed back, not just verbally, we wrote a report and we broke it out, and that was sent back before the holidays so we have to deal with the filed sub-bidder on the security and the electrical is the problem in this rough. So we have to go through this process of this back and forth, and we agree with what you're saying. So with the holidays, they haven't gotten back to us yet, but we're really pushing hard and bring this to a head this week.
My problem with saying a not to exceed number is it's out there and it doesn't give us any negotiation room.
Right, so if we set a number, chances are, if it's gonna be lower than number, it's not gonna be lower, it'll come back at that number.
Right.
So I agree, I'd rather not set that at all and see what you can do in negotiations, I'd rather take up just the number 12, the $7,127, and I'll make a motion to approve that change to allow for the conduit to be placed now and stubbed out for future.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Okay, one question, when is this board meeting next?
We can call a
This
meeting
committee.
when we need it, but it would be 2 weeks from today.
Okay, so that's good.
So, you mean this
The
subcommittee?
committee.
We can call a meeting when we need to.
So as soon as I get that info, we'll have a meeting, and it can be just on that almost, and I'll bring all the backup info and the results of that meeting.
So Taylor was worried about holding up the process, but I mean, I think we all agree that this is a crazy number.
Yeah.
And when we first saw it at the table, and I'm like, Carlton, are you sure this is not a wish or a want? And like, we went back and forth on that. So it's definitely a necessity, but at what cost?
Yeah, and I think once we get right now we're all just looking at a number. I think once they break it out, when we can actually physically look at a piece of paper and say, okay, these are the bits and pieces that, what's in the contract, why is it extra to that? I think that'll be a little bit easier to discuss.
There might be redundancies that
Yeah,
we don't see
right.
that
Exactly.
maybe we don't
Yeah.
need. Maybe there is a dual system that you have to do both a fob and a pin instead of two separate heads.
Mhm.
All right, I actually have a 4:30 meeting, so I wanna get to the tower, cause I think it's really important. And I'm just gonna turn it over to David and I'll chime in. Go ahead, David.
Well, I don't know how much we can really talk about because it was a negotiation session. However, we did have a number of questions regarding the timing and the sequencing of the tower in terms of their timeline, in terms of the anchor tenants locating on the tower, and the initial provision in the proposal that we pay rent on the tower, where we didn't make a provision for that. So at this point, there are a whole bunch of unanswered questions that need to be answered, and just the timing of it, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, the timing of it really concerns me because the way they were, I don't want to have an open building and no tower. And I think there's a possibility that could happen. So I want to leave open the possibility of maybe looking at using the state bid list to actually, potentially, if we can't successfully conclude a negotiation, to use the money we had allocated for that purpose.
So fortunately for us, the tower's already in the price. We would definitely have to update because it's been over a year, so we would have to ask for an update and if they would accept, what they had previously bid on. And the other fortunate thing is that if this negotiation doesn't work, we'll be under our timeline and that'll work for us. The second thing is that if this negotiation doesn't work, there is room for us to get our own cell carriers without having to pay rent or we can actually
Make money.
receive the money and make it. So
Which we can use in the future to do additional things that we want to do.
So I think that we can't really go into more detail than that, just that this will be another one of those we need to make a decision soon on. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was brought up to date. Like, I know we were trying to save money and save it for the carport, but, now we just have to just keep sharpening our pencils and doing what is needed as opposed to what is wanted, so we can get what we need at the end, and the carport is very important.
We are carrying the money for that, for the tower, and we have a contingency, a 10% contingency on the tower, so if there is any escalation, there should be there should be room for escalation in, what we're carrying for number, correct?
Yeah, yes,
Overall, we carried, I think, a 10% on everything, and there might even be an escalation clause for 10%.
well, the contingency is not 10% in the, there is a contingency, I just don't believe it's 10% on the final. It was at one time during like schematics and whatnot.
Right.
But yes, so Taylor's working on this other option we're talking about, the OPM.
Just one point would be, it would be a different type of tower too. We're talking, one with them, it would be a monopole. With us, it would probably be a lattice tower.
Not that that makes, you know.
Well, I just
know.
think visually, you gotta
Right.
think in terms of whether that is gonna.
Yeah, but we're gonna still spec out what we
Yep.
spec'd out from the beginning, so we had
Exactly.
a last tower
Right.
anyhow, so.
Go ahead, Paul.
Still be a self-standing tower, right? It's a
Yes.
lattice
Yes.
tower,
Mhm.
so, okay.
Yeah, because we have to go 185 feet,
Right.
no matter what, that's
180.
based on,
I just didn't want
the shadow
anybody to be
study.
blindsided, because we're going down one road and now we're at a crossroads sort of, so we need to just, make sure that we stay on top of it. And then if we have to make a quick meeting, we'll be talking about those two things, the change order and, the cell tower as well.
As long as we can, the tower we are spec'ing can still support cellular
Yeah,
capabilities.
we had talked
Yeah.
about.
We don't wanna put something up that can't support it in the
Right,
future.
exactly.
It actually included an additional cost to be able to put additional cellular carriages on the tower.
Okay,
3.
3.
Mhm.
Good.
So, all right, furniture, I'm gonna excuse myself. Do you mind taking over?
That's fine.
Thanks.
furniture is ongoing.
I don't, Charlie.
There's currently 2 vendors looking at it. We've brought in WB Mason now to look at it, in conjunction with Sheehan's. So, they have everything. I believe they're gonna get some pricing back to us, I think the end of next week. And then we'll start reviewing the furniture, and, we'll be able to compare the 2 vendors and
Okay.
select a vendor, and then get more into specifics of color and everything else. Review and approve invoices. I don't have any invoices,
No, I don't think so. No.
so.
Okay, and, I don't have an agenda in front of me. Any-
So open discussion on new business?
Open discussion of business.
You have the executive session for 4:30.
Only hold on for 1 second.
Because of
please.
the Excel. Oh, you can't go. All right, that's all
Yeah,
right.
that makes sense. I have it. Oh, no. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, open discussion, new business. Anything?
No? We gave that.
I'm good.
Anybody, any questions, concerns, comments? That was an easy one. Next meeting. Do you wanna set a hard date, or do you wanna just leave it up to when you get numbers back and you need to sit down?
We'll definitely set a hard date for 2 weeks, and hopefully, I think that's realistic to, we'll definitely have the answer for you on those security updates, and probably further discussion on the tower. So
Timeline wise for the tower, when do you need to know whether we're going with our system or their system for that? And, I mean, you need to do groundwork, if it's monopole versus lattice work, you're talking 4-pin base instead of 1, how does?
yeah, so you know, it's time. I mean, we need to resolve this in the next few months and get
So
something.
do you have a
going.
month still to work on it, you don't have?
Yeah, well, as you know, they didn't get paving down, so we still, this would affect paving in that area and
We
everything
still
else.
haven't, there's still an opportunity for the site contractor to get things in the ground before we get binder down or have to disturb it. You don't want to disturb it twice. You want to get it down once and be done with it. Again, getting a route from pole to pole, that's the easy part. Let's get it in the ground. PVC is cheap. Depending on what we do. So I'm sure certain areas are going to require a concrete casing, but now's the time to do it before we get the rest of that infrastructure in.
But this foundation would have to go in March, not to hold up the rest of the site work and
Correct.
get the building opening on time, so
Right.
we need to get resolution on which direction we're going as soon as we can.
Going back one.
Yeah.
We're talking about money for the tower and money for other things. Can somebody explain to me why we're doing the conduit underneath for the charging station at $7,100? I mean, I haven't seen all that many cars plugged up and in front of a police station. Might be a nice to have thing someday, but if we're talking about trying to cut unnecessary expenses, I think that'd be one we could consider for now.
The reason why for now is we're trying to build a 50-year building,
Yeah.
and 40 years from now, maybe they'll have flying cars. But right now, I didn't see this many electric cars out 5 years ago.
Yep.
In 5 years from now, there might be requirements. There already is some incentives to have electric vehicles for town vehicles.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if we have to start cutting money, having a carport over the back is a hell of a lot more.
Well, if you could do that for $7,100 a month,
Well, but that's part of the thing, it's one area we can.
you're
try
talking
and save
a
some
quarter of a
money.
million versus $7,000, and we already carrying the money for the tower either way.
Okay.
And we got the foundation approved already.
It was a huge number.
For
I
the
agree with you,
carport.
absolutely, Mark. But
And also on that, Mark, I just think for $7,100, you put that in, now you pave over it, and it's done. You, 3 years from now, you come back, you have to rip it up, then you're always gonna have a sinkhole or something like that. You're asking for problems where if you do it, you pave over it, now it's done.
and it's a piece of conduit,
It's-
so
it's
it may not be a charging station.
$7,100.
Now, it's just
Like one
it might be a
Tesla.
chase for something else. You know, it's a conduit.
Okay.
And we are putting in the foundation for the cruiser port. So
Yeah, we're not,
we won't be digging up anything for that,
Paul.
and that's a good start.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is, why is it gonna take so long to figure out on this tower thing?
The only thing that's gonna take so long to figure it out is deciding, is selecting the vendor. You know, getting past the negotiations, they have to first decide whether or not they're gonna go with the person who bid on it to put it in and then rent it.
You're talking about the people that we're currently dealing with. right?
Yes.
What's to stop you from going out for bids for your own tower, in case that falls through?
Well, I think that's what Andy
I,
is saying.
I,
He
I, I
suggests
think
we do
Taylor's running this tower project, and I think he's posturing that way right now.
Yeah, because
Well,
it's
Dave
not gonna
actually
take
said it.
very long. We've already got a plan for the tower. What's gonna take so long to get them to
Well, the
say
tower-
yes or no on the bid?
We do and we don't have a plan for the tower. The tower is a design-build entity. In other words, the installer provides the specific details on his product and how he does it. So, the next step would be to bid that out. There's a state bidders list. You know, the next step would be to find the person who's building the tower. That's the next step.
So I guess, depending on what the selectmen wants to decide, whether they're gonna do, what they're gonna do, we could go for an RFP
Yeah,
and have an RFP, and then we'll know exactly where we sit on the tower, whether we can compare apples to apples. But that's really at the pleasure of the selectmen, whether they want to go with the,
well, but can't you do both at the same
I
time?
think you probably
You can
could.
put out an
It might put a
RFP.
fire under the people that are bidding it,
Yeah,
but
you put out an RFP and you have bids come in, doesn't mean you have to take any of the bids, you can go with the other source. This way here doesn't hold things up. That's how I would do it.
I don't think that's.
My
for us
question
to
would be,
decide.
Andy,
I don't know if that's for us,
Would we
this
ha-
board to decide.
No, I'm just
That's
saying,
for us
that's
to
how I
recommend.
if
would.
we gave it 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, if we were to address this as the board of selectmen, whether to go with a bid for our own tower or, to supplement the idea of contracting out, would that be in any way harmful to, time-wise?
No, especially if Taylor and I can start doing some of the base work
Okay.
towards the other. No,
Is it too fast, 2 weeks, or would you prefer a month, or is 2 weeks?
Well, I can't add, the problem with the vendor who bid on it to supply the tower at their cost, there's a lot of legal issues that came up as far, it was publicly bid, and so, in other words, it can't really be, you can't publicly bid something and then after the bid make negotiations and whatnot, so they're running into some issues there. So I can't speak to that timeline, it gets very, it's confusing. I don't know if they'll have that done by then, but we can certainly start our process and not wait for 2 weeks to find out whether or not they're gonna go with this other vendor or not, but we can.
Was you thinking about bringing it up at your next selectmen's meeting,
Yeah.
Charlie? So do you wanna give it a couple of weeks? I can give you wanna give more than that? You want,
I mean,
I don't know what what your agendas look like.
You know, it depends on, you know, how quickly we need it to be done. Because, yeah, you know, if we go and bid on our own and we are satisfied with these, you know, contractor who's gonna put, other antennas on, well, you know, we can change at that time, but probably would be a good idea to bid on our own then, from what I'm understanding, correct? Am I correct in asserting that, Andy, that, it might be a good idea to, start the process of?
Yes, it's a good idea to start the process. What's going on with the other process, I can't really speak to that, or they need to finish that process
Exactly.
with town council and then, but we should get the other scheme going.
Why don't we readdress it in 2 weeks? But we'll do it, if we could, on a Wednesday, so that gives the selectmen to meet on the Monday, barring, I don't think there's any holidays between.
The-
20th is a holiday.
Actually, yeah, the Martin Luther King's
But you'll have it
birthday,
on the Tuesday instead, so if we
right,
meet the
it'll be
Wednesday, you'll,
21st. We'll meet, our next meeting after tonight will be the 21st.
so if we had a meeting on the 22nd,
I mean, we could,
here.
as a board, we could meet, we could call a special meeting.
Yeah, but I'm saying as a school committee, if the, school committee, yeah, right. The police subcommittee meets on the 22nd, that would give you time to have your agenda meet and have a discussion and give us a direction that we can head in.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
Paul?
One thing that was said earlier in the discussion about this was, and I may have misunderstood, they were asking us to pay rent to put our antenna on the
I
tower?
can't speak to any of that, because that's all, seems like that
But I
was
think that's what you said.
part of negotiations.
So
I didn't say that.
No,
but-
David said that.
But that was said.
Negotiations.
that we would be paying about $900 a month until they were able to co-locate somebody on. So I think that's one of the issues they're talking about. Our position is probably we shouldn't be paying anything.
That's right. That's what would be.
It's not our property, but
Well, also too, an RFP was sent out that was specific, and I know they can't, that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I think the RFP though had us paying nothing.
But that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that things like that, you know, you gotta do what the RFP said, or else you'd have to send out another RFP. So there, a lot of issues came up like that, and a timing issue and some other stuff.
construction equipment, especially for mechanicals, are they able to get access to the site now? We're getting to the season where it's warm, cold, produces mud, we have water issues.
Oh, we don't have any, we got two, right now, we can go around the DPW building through the back way, and we still have the main entry right off of,
But there's no big mud issues or anything?
no,
No
not at
reason
all.
for mechanicals to say we can't make it to the site because
No,
of,
no,
we
everybody's,
thought we'd be binded down before the
No.
season, but
no, actually, it's a pretty good hard pack down there right now, so it's good. We're getting deliveries every day.
Good.
Don't see any issues.
any other questions, concerns? All right, next meeting, won't we set the next meeting, I'll entertain a motion to set the next meeting for, January 22nd here at 5:30, is what you guys usually do? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
I know for me, later the better, but I'll entertain as a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Ayes carry. Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Nays? The meeting is adjourned.